Every great American story starts with something ordinary: a backyard barbecue, a trip to the hardware store, or a man trying to fix a ceiling fan and ending up on YouTube with 1 million views. But today's story, this one starts with Domino's. Not the pizza, although trust me, pizza will show up. I'm talking about the little black and white tiles your grandma used to play with at the kitchen table, except here they're not just toys. They're metaphors, life lessons, and maybe even a comedy routine waiting to happen. It was a Saturday afternoon in Bloomington, Indiana. The kind of day where the air smelled faintly of cut grass and charcoal smoke, and pickup trucks gleamed under the autumn sun. College kids in hoodies and baseball caps were jogging past tidy rows of suburban homes, while older neighbors were raking leaves into ambitious piles their dogs would later destroy. Inside a cozy 2-story house with tan siding and a squeaky screen door, Tom Reynolds, mid-40s, average American dad bod, plaid flannel shirt tucked into jeans that had seen better days, was kneeling on the living room carpet. Spread before him was a massive arrangement of dominoes. Not 50, not 500. Try 3,000. Tom's wife, Lisa, leaned against the doorframe holding a mug of coffee. Her yoga pants were splattered with flour from the pumpkin bread she was baking, and her expression carried that mixture of patience and disbelief only long marriages can foster. "Tom," she said, her voice calm but edged with a laugh. "You've been at this since breakfast. You skipped pancakes. You never skip pancakes." Tom sat back, wiping sweat off his forehead like he'd just run a marathon. "Honey, this is art. History in the making. When these dominoes fall, it's going to be like fireworks without the fire hazard." Lisa smirked. "Or like the last time you tried fireworks, and Officer Daniels told you the county line doesn't make you exempt from state law." You see, Tom was a dreamer. The kind of guy who looked at a box of dominoes and didn't see a game. He saw a stage, a life lesson, and possibly the Guinness World Record, although Guinness hadn't returned his emails. By noon, the Reynolds living room looked like a black and white cityscape. Domino towers spiraled toward the ceiling, bridges stretched across the coffee table, and intricate patterns sprawled into the hallway. Their teenage son, Ethan, wandered downstairs in basketball shorts and a hoodie, munching on a Pop-Tart. He froze mid-bite. Dad, did you just build the Great Wall of Dominoes across the entire living room?" "'Cause I kinda need to get to the fridge." Tom pointed dramatically toward the kitchen. "Not unless you moonwalk your way across the counter, young man. The floor is officially a domino highway." Ethan rolled his eyes. "You're impossible. Mom, can we order pizza? Please? I think Dad's losing it." Lisa laughed. "We'll order pizza after his masterpiece either succeeds or crashes like his lawnmower on that slope last summer. This right here, this is the first domino. Not the tile Tom's about to tip over, but the choice he made, to start something ridiculous, ambitious, maybe even impossible. That's how it works in life. Every bold step feels like a domino, small, fragile, risky. And sometimes, it knocks down 100 other things you didn't expect." By mid-afternoon, the neighbors had gathered. Mr. Johnson, retired mailman with a baseball cap permanently glued to his head, leaned over the porch railing. "Reynolds, you finally building something that won't collapse like your deer stand?" "Funny guy," Tom shot back, grinning. "Stick around, you might witness history." Across the street, Sarah Miller, the neighborhood runner with neon sneakers, slowed her jog to watch through the window. Kids rode bikes in circles chanting, "Dominoes. Dominoes," as if it were the new national anthem. Tom's domino spectacle had become a block-wide event. Lisa passed out lemonade. Someone brought chips. The Reynolds golden retriever, Max, was banished to the backyard because one tail wag could end civilization as they knew it. Then came the moment. The sun dipped lower, throwing golden beams through the blinds. The pizza delivery guy, a college sophomore named Travis, arrived with 3 boxes of pepperoni just as Tom stood before his creation like a maestro before an orchestra. "Ladies and gentlemen, neighbors and passers-by," Tom announced, clearing his throat. "Today, we witness the domino effect. The symbol of how small actions create big changes. The metaphor that when one falls, it can bring down the rest, unless, of course, something, or someone, stands tall." Now, I know what you're thinking. That's a lot of pressure to put on a bunch of plastic rectangles. But this is America. We've seen less inspiring things get turned into motivational posters. Tom reached for the first domino. His fingers trembled. He tapped it. Click. The sound echoed. One domino hit the next. Then another. Then another. The chain reaction began. And just like that, the dominoes fell like high schoolers rushing out when the final bell rings. A ripple, a wave, a crashing waterfall of motion and sound. The living room erupted into gasps and cheers. Dominoes tumbled in zigzags across the carpet, spiraled up little staircases Tom had engineered, looped around the couch, and raced through the hallway like NASCAR on caffeine. Ethan dropped his Pop-Tart. No way. This is actually kinda awesome. Lisa clutched her coffee like it was the Super Bowl. Please, Lord, don't let the dog sneak in right now. The neighbors clapped, some filming on their phones. The sound was hypnotic. Tick 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 tick. Dominoes fell through the dining room, past the kitchen, up onto the counter, and back down again. And then, it happened. The final stretch. A single domino stood at the very end, away from the rest. Tall, lonely, unmoved. Every domino had fallen, except one. And there it was, the last domino standing. Against the odds, it refused to fall. Like that one uncle who survives every family wedding dance floor without spilling his drink. Like the last bag of chips no one dares to take. Like the stubborn spirit inside us that says, "Not today, gravity. Not today." The crowd went silent. Tom blinked. Wait, what? It didn't fall? Ethan smirked. Dad, I think you just invented inspirational home decor. Lisa laughed so hard she nearly dropped her coffee. Honey, your metaphor just went off script. But here's the lesson. Not everything has to fall. Life will knock down jobs, plans, relationships, and plenty of egos. But sometimes, just sometimes, one part of us stands tall. That last domino, that's resilience. That's grit. That's the reminder that no matter how many pieces topple, you don't have to go down with them. The pizza guy, Travis, finally broke the silence. So do I get a tip for witnessing history, or? The crowd laughed. Tom knelt beside the final domino, staring at it with awe. For a man who had started the day with nothing but a box of plastic tiles and too much coffee, he suddenly felt like he'd uncovered the secret of the universe in his own living room. Neighbors drifted home. Kids rode off on bikes. The sun slid behind the horizon, leaving streaks of pink and orange across the Indiana sky. Inside, Lisa set the pumpkin bread on the counter while Ethan grabbed a slice of pizza. Tom, still kneeling, whispered to himself, sometimes the last one standing is the most important. Max barked from the backyard, begging to be let in. And that's how it begins, not with all the dominoes falling, but with the one that refuses. Scene 1 closes with a man staring at a piece of plastic, but what he really sees is possibility. Because tomorrow the real test comes. What you do when you realize you're the last one still standing. Every story has an aftermath. The fireworks fade, the football game ends, the barbecue grill cools down, and somebody still has to clean up the paper plates. For Tom Reynolds, the aftermath of his domino apocalypse of 2025 came the next morning, when reality walked in wearing fuzzy socks and carrying a half-empty cereal bowl. The Sunday sun rose slow and golden over Bloomington, Indiana. Church bells chimed in the distance. American flags fluttered on porches, and the neighborhood smelled of fresh coffee and maple bacon drifting out of open kitchen windows. Inside the Reynolds house, the living room still looked like a crime scene. Dominoes lay scattered across the carpet, overturned in every direction, except for that one, the last domino still upright, standing proud in the corner of the hallway. Ethan padded downstairs, spoon in his mouth, bowl of Lucky Charms in hand. He stopped at the sight of the carnage. Yup, still looks like Dad hosted a Vegas casino in here. From the kitchen, Lisa called out, "Don't step on anything. I don't want broken domino pieces in the vacuum again." Tom emerged from the garage, hair messy, eyes bright. He was wearing jeans, an old Colts t-shirt, and the unmistakable swagger of a man who believed he'd uncovered a life philosophy in his suburban living room. He pointed dramatically to the lone standing domino. "Behold, the survivor, the symbol of human resilience. The reason I skipped pancakes yesterday." Ethan groaned. "Dad, it's literally a piece of plastic. Can we please not make it a family mascot?" But Tom wasn't listening. He grabbed a notepad off the counter and started scribbling. Words like courage, last one standing, resilience filled the page, along with doodles of dominoes wearing sunglasses. This is what happens when ordinary people discover metaphors. Suddenly, every trip to the grocery store is a parable. Every flat tire becomes a sermon. And every piece of plastic shaped like a rectangle? A symbol of the American spirit. Later that day, Tom dragged a folding table onto the driveway. He set the surviving domino right in the middle like a prized trophy. Neighbors gathered again, curious. Mr. Johnson, the retired mailman, ambled over with a mug of black coffee. "Reynolds, you selling domino insurance now?" "No," Tom said proudly, "I'm giving a demonstration." Sarah, the jogger, slowed down, earbuds dangling. "Another one? Didn't you cause enough chaos yesterday?" Tom cleared his throat, speaking like a preacher at Sunday service. Friends, this domino represents us. When life pushes every piece around us, when everything falls, we still have the power to stand tall. Mr. Johnson sipped his coffee. Pretty sure it just didn't get knocked over 'cause of the rug. The neighbors chuckled, but Tom powered through. Look, life knocks us down. Layoffs, breakups, bad chili at the county fair. But sometimes, you get to be the last one standing. And that's when people notice. Here's the truth. You don't have to be the first domino, the flashiest domino, or even the biggest one in the lineup. You just have to be the one that doesn't quit. Because in a world where everyone falls, the one who refuses becomes the example. The reminder, the hope. By late afternoon, Tom had written out a speech. Lisa, amused, helped him type it into a PowerPoint. Ethan, pretending to be annoyed, secretly added a meme of a domino flexing biceps. That evening, the Reynolds family attended a community potluck at the town hall. Long folding tables stacked with fried chicken, potato salad, green bean casseroles, and an entire dessert section that could put a dentist's kids through college. The hall buzzed with laughter, the shuffle of boots, the hum of conversations about high school football and gas prices. Tom had volunteered, or maybe Lisa volunteered him, to give the closing, inspirational words. Standing at the podium, under fluorescent lights that buzzed like lazy bees, Tom held up the last domino. This little guy, he began, taught me something. Yesterday, 3,000 dominoes fell. But this one didn't. It stood tall. And I realized, that's us. That's America. That's you and me. The crowd chuckled softly, intrigued. Life will push us. Sometimes it feels like everything's falling apart. Jobs, health, plans. But sometimes, one part of us, the stubborn part, stays standing. And that part? That's what keeps us going. That's what inspires others. He paused, scanning the crowd. So maybe you're the last one standing after a tough season. Maybe you're holding it together when others fall apart. Don't see it as being alone. See it as being strong. See it as being the example. Applause filled the hall. Someone shouted, "Preach it, Domino Man." Tom laughed, bowing. Here's the funny thing about inspiration. Sometimes it doesn't come from presidents, CEOs, or motivational speakers with wireless headsets. Sometimes it comes from a middle-aged dad in Indiana holding a piece of plastic at a potluck. The domino became legendary in Bloomington. Teachers invited Tom to speak at schools. Churches asked him to share the domino message. Even the local hardware store displayed a photo of him with the caption, "Stand like the last domino." Of course, Ethan rolled his eyes every time. "Dad, you're literally famous for not knocking something over. That's your legacy." But deep down, even he was proud. He wore a hoodie to school with a domino logo Lisa had printed. Kids called him Domino Kid. Lisa, meanwhile, kept her humor sharp. "Well, Tom, at least this obsession doesn't involve power tools or trips to the One chilly November night, Tom sat by the fireplace, the domino resting on the mantel. Outside, the air smelled of wood smoke and frost. He thought about everything that had happened, the laughter, the attention, the lessons. Ethan flopped onto the couch, scrolling his phone. "So, Dad, you ever think maybe the domino stood just 'cause of bad carpet friction?" Tom smiled. "Maybe, but that's not the point." "What is the point?" Tom poked the fire, sparks rising. "The point is, life's gonna try to knock us down. Sometimes it succeeds, but if even one piece of us stays standing, we've got a chance to rebuild. That's what matters." Ethan thought for a second, then nodded. "Kinda like when I bombed that math test, but still made varsity? I didn't totally fall." "Exactly," Tom said. "You were the last domino standing in that moment. And that's how it ends, folks. Not with a clatter of falling tiles, but with one stubborn piece refusing to give in. We all get knocked, pushed, rattled. But if even one part of us stands, we inspire others to rise again. So the next time you feel like every domino in your life is tipping, remember Tom. Remember his living room full of chaos, his neighbors laughing, his son rolling his eyes. And most of all, remember that one little domino that said, "Not today." Because maybe, just maybe, you're that domino. The last one standing.
Like and subscribe if you want daily dose of happiness and motivation.